Breaking news, Aaron Rodgers has signed with the Steelers. He is going to sign on a one-year deal, and yeah, I think we all saw it coming. It just finally happened on pen and paper. Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, which it is a little bit weird because you kind of we all knew it was coming, so we all had a chance to sort of like develop our thoughts, like the possibilities of Aaron Rodgers with Mike Tomlin, Aaron Rodgers throwing to, DK Metcalf and things like that, and what the Steelers' record is going to be, how they're going to look, how Rodgers is going to look, and things like that. But now that's actually happening, I think it is a good opportunity to sort of like kind of look at some angles to this. And first and foremost, I think a lot of people are making fun of the Steelers for like settling with Rodgers and like, oh, they're gonna be 9-8. 9-8 never looks so good, and a wild card exit, right? But and you can make fun of the Steelers for being in this position to be this desperate, I guess. But at this point, this is by far your best option. By far your best option. Because you just saw my video, which very ironically I put out, and then like 2 hours later, Rodgers gets signed. And so the views also like just kind of skyrocketed after that, which is pretty funny. I imagine a lot of people thought I was like out of touch or something like that. But your options were like, Rodgers, or you could like start Mason Rudolph. You could trade for Jameis Winston. You could sign, trade for Kirk Cousins and things like that. I mean, maybe some people would rather have Kirk Cousins at this point than Rodgers, but I think most people would agree that Rodgers is better than Kirk Cousins. But at this point, right here, right now, there was just not much you could do. I mean, maybe you could have tried to make a move for Jackson Dart, like obviously in the draft, not like, not right now, but at this point, and sure, we can make fun of the Steelers. We can make fun of Rodgers. We can also make fun of Rodgers, by the way. We just know he's like kind of weird with his conspiracies. He was on Joe Rogan, I think, the other day. It was a 3-hour podcast, and football was not mentioned at all, which was extremely funny to me. But we can make fun of them, but I do think for the Steelers, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's the move you have to do. If Rodgers is willing to come, you have to sign him. And then, for Rodgers, I still think Aaron Rodgers has a little bit left in the tank. Obviously, he is, he's not, I don't think he's as far removed from his like MVP seasons as we would think. Because let's see, his last MVP season was the 21 season. So 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, he's 4 years removed. That actually might have been a little bit more than I thought. So he had one season where his last season in Green Bay wasn't that good. Then he got hurt on the Jets. And then he played on the Jets, wasn't that good. And then, he has this year. So really 3.5, I guess, if you think about it. But I still think Rodgers has something left in the tank. I think he played really well. Well, I think he played pretty well in New York, just kind of given the circumstances and things like that. Him and Devontae kind of got chemistry and things like that. And, it'll just kind of be a matter of just kind of like, situations like will he be able to cooperate with his receivers? Will the O-line hold up for him? Can they get the running game and defense going? Because clearly, and I do not think I am, I don't think I'm, breaking any news or anything here, but clearly Rodgers cannot like carry a team like he used to back in the day. Like today's, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, things like that. He's not going to be the sole reason that they win games. I mean, maybe he will be. Maybe there'll be some games where they're struggling and then he has some like insane throws. I actually wouldn't be shocked if that happens, but he's not going to be consistently carrying the Steelers like to like 11, 12 wins and then to like the AFC Championship and things like that. I mean, it would be kind of shocking if the Steelers made the AFC Championship, but I clearly doubt that that's going to happen. So yeah, I think Rodgers still has something left in the tank. And I think he's definitely in a better situation in Pittsburgh than he was in New York, obviously. So I'm probably of the school of thought, as everyone else is, that the Steelers are probably going to be 9-8, 10-7. Either miss the playoffs barely or make the playoffs, but then get a wild card exit. I think that's about where you're looking at for the Steelers. I do think, though, Rodgers still is more than competent if he stays healthy. I think if he stays healthy, he's still like... Now, I haven't done my quarterback rankings yet, but I think he's a top half quarterback. I think he's like a solid middling, like, you could think of, I don't know who would I compare him to, sort of like skill wise. Tua. I mean, I don't know, but I still think he's definitely a starting quarterback, even at 41, and I think him and the Steelers could do some good things. It is also interesting to note that I know a lot of people, when they, look at the schedule now, they're like, oh, Rodgers going to play his former team, the Jets, in week 1, which is obviously intriguing, but isn't Rodgers versus the Packers going to be way more intriguing? I think that's week 6. I believe that's on a Sunday Night Football game. So that is something to sort of keep in mind. Rodgers has a couple of revenge games up his sleeve, and then I think he plays like the Bears, Vikings, and all the his former division rivals and things like that. So that is going to be very fun to see. Not really much to react to. I don't think this really changes like the landscape of the NFL really at all. I mean, I guess the only question would have been if Rodgers had retired or didn't go to Pittsburgh, then like what would the Steelers had done? And I was honestly kind of looking forward. I thought it was going to be interesting. Now, obviously, like, I do think Rodgers going to the Steelers is good, and it's good for the NFL, and I'm glad that it happened. But I also kind of would have been interested if you had to roll out Mason Rudolph. Could they have sort of like slugged their way to 9 wins, right? So that would have been really interesting to see. But the deal happened. It is very clear that Rodgers is playing on a year-by-year basis. Wouldn't shock me if this was his last year, or maybe next year's his last year. But what I also will say for the Steelers is that they've got to get a contingency plan in place, whether Rodgers retires or they have to move on or something like that, because like you don't want to be in this situation again. I mean, Aaron Rodgers kind of fell on your lap, right? Like you need a plan. Like, I don't know if that's like drafting someone. Maybe you believe in Will Howard. Maybe you sign like I don't know. I don't know who would be out there that would be like Zach Wilson has a career resurrection. You sign him, something like that. I don't know, but Steelers do need to figure something out. And then Rodgers is just kind of on his last leg career-wise. So I've always kind of been a little bit sentimental of the older guys in the NFL. Like when Brady and Manning were playing, I really admired them. And then, like Rodgers in his prime and things like that. And like now it's just kind of like, it's basically from that kind of OG group, it's like really just Rodgers and Stafford at this point. And then you just kind of have like Dak Prescott maybe as the next oldest. Like, Derek Carr retired, but yeah, we're kind of really coming to the new generation. I think Mahomes will be 30 this year, maybe next year, but I think it's this year. Maybe Lamar Jackson too. I think Lamar's 29 though. So we're kind of getting to that point to where the sort of what we thought was the new crop of guys are now the established guys, and then you have kind of are the newer crop with like the CJ Strouds, Jaden Daniels, Bryce Young, we'll see, Cam Ward, Bo Nix and things like that. So very interesting. It's very interesting that like Aaron Rodgers and like Cam Ward or Bryce Young are in the same league playing the same position. So that is all my thoughts as far as that goes. Hope you all have a good rest of your day, and I'm sure there will be more comprehensive thoughts on our next episode. So stay tuned. Peace.